iPhone 16 Pro Max or iPhone 16 Pro, which is the better buy for you this year? By the end of this video, you're going to find out just that based on the experiences I've had and everything I'm going to share with you in this video as an owner of both. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. First of all, I do want to say one thing right away and showcase to you receipts that I purchased these phones with my own money. You can see items available. Here's my order placed for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And I did have to cut out my addresses for obvious reasons, but you can see right there, 16 Pro, right there. That one was a delivery item, but you can see delivers by. So I had the 16 Pro delivered and I had this one picked up. You can see there's my order total for my area. This is how much the iPhone 16 Pro cost. And here is how much the iPhone 16 Pro Max costs. Now, a lot of people aren't going to show you exactly those details, so I went ahead and showed you that just so you know these phones were not sent to me for free. But with that being said, that's the first thing I want to start talking about in this video. The value for the price between the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. Are you getting good value? Well, I think this year you're getting pretty good value with the 16 Pro because you're not getting any differences with the camera. Same camera. This is like a 13 Pro Pro Max year. You're getting pretty much the same build, but you're also getting a nice 6.3 inch screen, which is up over the 6.1, and you also get the camera capture button. This also comes in the same colors. So really this year, it's one of those years again where it's just like you're getting just a smaller screen, and that's just the main difference. Bigger screen or smaller screen between these two. So it's a great year to get the regular Pro. But from a value perspective, I think what I keep understanding after using these after a while or coming to the conclusion have you is that these phones only feel like a worthy upgrade if you have something older than, say, like a 14 Pro Max, like 2, 3, 4-year-old upgrades. So if you're coming from older iPhones, these are going to feel like massive leaps. But that year-over-year upgrade is why you keep seeing a lot of complaining online and whining about, oh, these are not anything special. That's because the people that are talking about that online are talking from a perspective of somebody who had a phone last year, like an iPhone 15 Pro, Pro Max, or even a 14 Pro and Pro Max. And you got to zoom out your perspective to see who's really getting bigger upgrades. People like the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And while on the surface it might look similar, look how much bigger the cameras are. Smoother edges, definitely a larger screen. This is a type of upgrade that is probably worthy, or even if you want to go further back, something like an iPhone 11 Pro Max, a totally different design, action button, much larger cameras, much better battery, bigger size. You could even go from this to like an iPhone 16 Pro and still be getting upgrades. So it's when you go further back that those upgrades are really being felt. And I still think at this price point, they're still giving you what you expect for the money. It's just when you're doing a yearly upgrade, that doesn't seem like it's always worth the money. The phones are still justifying their price tag because they're still giving you high-end materials, high-end processors, long support, great cameras, and great battery life on either one you go with. So they still do command that price tag. It's just if you're upgrading from just a last year phone or even a competing phone from the Android side this year, it might be a tough call on that front. All right, so let's talk about the build and the body. First of all, the titanium is a really nice upgrade to the iPhone series, mostly because the titanium keeps the phones looking clean throughout the duration of their use. Now, you still can get a little bit of a fingerprint up there, but it's not too noticeable. And this year, it's not really a brushed titanium like it was on the 15 Pros. It looks a little more shiny to me, but you'll see we do have the power button up here. And the camera capture button is kind of like a Touch ID-like sensor, but it operates more as a camera control, which is kind of neat. You have the color-infused glass on the rear here. And personally, the colors this year, I quite like the Desert Titanium. I think it looks pretty nice in person. It looks more like a bronzish gold color, kind of reminding me of the iPhone 11 Pro. USB-C at the bottom over here, and then we have our action button on this side and our volume rockers. But from the build perspective, they feel pretty sturdy, although don't get it twisted. If you hit this on concrete or in a corner, you're still going to chip this thing up possibly. In addition to that, if you drop it in the right corner, this glass is still going to crack. I mean, after all, it's not like it's bulletproof or anything like that. So I still keep it in a case. I still rock a screen protector because I'm not about to damage that $1,000+ investment. Now, what's nice about this one over here on the 16 Pro is that you do have essentially that same build, but it comes in a lighter package. So it's about 27 grams lighter than this phone, but still has that same top level feel. It also has a much denser feel than the base 16. So it doesn't feel cheap or anything like that. Like, it's not so much lighter, it feels cheap. The 16 Pro actually still does have some heft to it. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that if you thought, oh, it's too light, it doesn't feel premium. No, it still feels that way. I like this white titanium though as well. It's a classic looking color, although I think the black titanium looks great at the same time. So definitely some nice color options this year. I personally am avoiding the natural titanium because I had it last year, but overall the build and the body, they definitely have a premium, clean aesthetic this year that don't really get dirty or attract a lot of fingerprints or anything like that. And they still have a pretty solid construction, although again, they're not perfect. They can still crack, they can still get damaged. So I do still recommend, even if you don't want a thick case, a thin case, just for when you're out and about, or when you're out and about, something a little sturdier. So if you drop it, you don't break it. But around the house, if you got carpet or anything like that, you'll probably be fine. If you're just using it on the bed or whatever, or somewhere where it's soft, that would be fine as well. Now, when it comes to one-handed usage, there's only one to buy, and you know which one that is. It's the iPhone 16 Pro. If you're deciding to buy between these two, you want to get this one if you want the easier reach. I actually think this might be the perfect size for some people. And the reason being is it does have like a large enough screen that it feels nearly like one of the older 6.5 inch phones, but still with thinner bezels and still not as clunky as that. So here is a 11 Pro Max. You can see it's not way off that size, but more comfortable than that size. So one-handed use is going to be this one, but for ultimate one-handed use, that's going to be something like an iPhone 16, the base model. That's even smaller screen of the ones that are available now. We all know the ultimate is the mini, but the mini doesn't exist no more. So I'm talking about the current 16 line. But between these two, which to buy for one-handed, there's only one option. It's right here. Also, I feel like if you have a large enough hand, you could probably just hold this really easy, use that camera capture button, and take your photo really quickly. If I didn't have the flash on to delay that, that would have been faster. But it's probably easier to do stuff like that with the camera capture button on the 16 Pro. Whereas this one, you might be like doing all this to try to, yeah, it's just not as comfortable. So this is going to be more like a two-hand camera capture button, feeling like sturdy, bang, get that camera, get that photo in. So that's going to be quite a bit different. So that portability is always going to go to the Pro. The base Pro is definitely portable, but it's not as portable as it used to be because it's now 6.3. So do keep that in mind. But if you want the media consumption size, that's going to be the 16 Pro Max. Now, when it comes to the display, we do have essentially the same quality of the panel. It is OLED. It gets really bright outdoors, indoors. It has nice true tone options. It has nice color reproduction. There's nothing insane about it. It does have more glare than some of the more anti-reflective properties of some of Samsung's competition. However, the phone itself has a really well-tuned, color-accurate display, and it's nicely saturated without being over the top. So it's one of the best out there. The whites look pretty good as well. And in some of my videos, people have thought my screen looked weird. It's because I accidentally had True Tone on. That changes the color tone of the display. But one thing about the iPhone 16 Pro that you might not notice, even though it has essentially the same quality, is that the iPhone 16 Pro Max actually has slightly thinner bezels. It's only like a small amount, but the screen to body ratio is actually a little bit smaller on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So if you want the ultimate bezel-less or close to bezel-less display, that's the 16 Pro Max. That's the winner there. Also, there's no real advantage being taken of this larger display on the iPhone 16 Pro Max in the way of something like split screen or multitasking abilities that really take advantage of the larger screen. So you're not really going to benefit there. But the size is really large at 6.9. So everything feels blown up. And if you have eye issues or sight issues and you just need the biggest display possible, this is going to be the move. Also, because the display is so large, it'll serve as a great GPS tool and also a great video watching tool on the go and landscape. But this phone also doesn't turn into landscape mode all the time. But this one, I feel like with the 16 Pro is big enough now that it can also serve as a great portable option. on the go as well. It's not like small. It only feels small when you put it side by side to this one. But it definitely, in day-to-day practice, it feels incredibly comfortable while still having enough space for content consumption. Although phones in general, to me, are still too small for the best media consumption, that's going to be tablets. Tablets are the king of that. So these are still both portable enough, but this one just feels right. This one feels a little bit large for day-to-day, but if you like that kind of thing, you like the most biggest phone you can get, this is another thing. And another thing I want to mention is that it always feels like if I'm paying the top dollar, I do like having the 16 Pro Max because I feel like I'm getting the most for my money because of the size. But to the 16 Pro, at least it's a couple $100 less. So now bringing on to the software, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because iOS 18 we talked about this year. It is one of the best years yet for the software. We're going with these new tinted icons. We have dark mode icons. We have light mode icons. We have customization like never before. Larger icons right there from this section, hiding app abilities. There's a lot you can do, and Apple, while they still have control over the system, they've allowed more customization than ever before to the iOS 18 experience. And I love the new hidden app section. Journal gets insights. There is a ton to talk about. We can go on and on about iOS 18. But the fact of the matter is at its core, this software still feels kind of the same. It's still got a restrictive feel to it by comparison to Android. But that's not saying that's a bad thing. It still has a great ecosystem of products to go with it. It still gets some of the fastest updates in the business, and it still gets, very, very long software support. Like some of the older iPhones like this, 11 Pro Max still supports iPhone's iOS 18 software, and that phone is from 2019. So if you buy one of these phones now, you'll be getting software updates pretty much in line with everyone else for the next 5 years, maybe 6 years. So that's still a compelling thing for people who want to keep phones long period. And I think a lot of people do in this day and age because the changes are becoming more minimal. They're going to go with a phone that can give them the most reliable long-term software support. And these are two of the best options out there. And with the 8 gigs of RAM, A18 Pro chips, these are going to be some decent phones still at that point in time. Although I do think iPhones are going to advance to 12 and 16 by the time these are pretty much about to expire in terms of software updates. But yeah, software pretty similar to before with a lot more customization features and still that long software support. So I can't really say to buy either in terms of performance. So I'm not going to talk too much longer about this. The iPhone 16 Pro Max and 16 Pro get about the same performance either way you go. However, I do feel like there's more room for heat to disperse on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So it might have a slight advantage there, but you can see it's almost nothing. You can see these Geekbench scores produced almost no differences in results. I am getting slightly better on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but it's not enough to really make any substantial difference in the day-to-day life of using these phones. So I will say that 16 Pro Max, 16 Pro, performance-wise, you're winning either way. You have the two fastest phones on the market today. In terms of CPU, they're some of the fastest out there. When it comes to which one to buy in terms of the camera, it's not really about the quality because the cameras are the same. So we don't have to say, one has better quality. It really comes down to your viewfinder, how you feel about the portability and how you want to experience using one of these cameras. I also do have to mention that if you're going to be taking a lot of photos and videos, there is an option for only 128 gigs here. So if you are looking for a little bit more space and you get the base iPhone 16 Pro, you have less storage. So it's not going to be better for ultimate longevity in the camera because it's going to have a smaller amount of storage. So you got to go 256 gig for the best standard storage. But you'll see both have really great action video. Everything is really, really high quality as you would expect for the iPhone. But having that ultra wide and the 48 megapixel and then the 5x here on the iPhone 16 Pro, as well as the 25 from last year's 15 Pro Max, makes the 16 Pro more compelling than ever before because it has the same camera quality. Both of them do have support for the spatial video as well. If we go over here, we'll swipe over the spatial video, which is going to help for creating Vision Pro videos. In addition, we have cinematic mode, slow-mo, and the 4K 120, which is a huge deal for a lot of people this year who want to do super smooth video. This is pretty incredible that we have this now. at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, do you want the bigger viewfinder? Do you want the larger phone when framing photos? And do you want a base storage of 256 gig, or you'll pay more for the 16 Pro Max? For me, I personally like taking photos and videos on the 16 Pro Max because the size is easier to see things, it's easier to frame things. But I like this for more discreet privacy. It's a little bit more personal. You know, it's smaller. It feels more like a little point and shoot camera. So again, you got that element right there. And they both have the camera capture button. So I think it comes down to which size do you like for taking photos, because it's essentially the same this year. And I want to talk a little bit about buying one of these when it comes to the camera capture button, any of the 16s actually. So with these, you get more zooming, so they'll be more fun to play with around here than the base 16s. But you kind of just, you know, hold down. It's kind of like a vibration, double click to go through these different styles. Then you can click in there, change the styles. Some people calling this a gimmick. I think once you get used to it, it's pretty fun to use. It can be gimmicky if you're not going to use it. So there's a point to be said there. However, I think if you get used to it, it's going to be good. I also thought this was kind of pointless too, all these features, until I went out to do a camera comparison with the S24 Ultra. I found myself actually using this a lot, this camera capture button. Not so much all these zooming and stuff, but definitely just using it as a shutter key. And I know you could just do that before with the iPhone's action button. You could just take a photo like that, same thing, but it just has a different feel. It's a wider button. It feels more natural. It feels kind of like you're holding a point and shoot camera. So that's a big deal. However, I do want to mention though that you can't lock the focus. So like on traditional cameras, you could like lock the focus. If you start holding down, it's just going to go to those features. So I wish Apple would add that ability to lock the focus if they're going to be continuing on with the camera capture button. But at the end of the day, the camera capture buttons, I think, are not gimmicky if you are going to use them. If it's just something there and you're just going to find yourself continuing on with the habit of just using the phone like this and just going like that. And some people even argue this is more simple. And I agree, it is more simple. But if you're not going to use it, then it's just a gimmick feature there just to be there. But that's probably not the selling point anyway for these phones. It's probably not what's going to be the deciding factor. But I did want to give you my statements on the camera capture button. All right. Now, when it comes to battery life, it's only going to be one. It's the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now, my cycle count's very low because this phone's only a week old. In addition, I've been doing this charging thing where I keep it low because I'm trying to keep those cycles low. So that's why I don't have like 10 cycles already. But the phone's actually been lasting incredibly long. The phone, if you charge it up to 100, this phone is kind of reminding me of the iPhone 13 Pro Max, when you could like go the whole day, go into the next day, and you still have like 60% battery. It's kind of like that. This phone is insanely good on battery life. I didn't find the same to be true for the iPhone 16 Pro. It's good, but it's not insanely good. So this, to me, the 16 Pro is your typical all-day phone experience, charging every night. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, though, is your 13 Pro Max-like experience, lasting 2 days possibly. So battery life, there's only one king here. It's the Pro Max. This is the one. If you want battery, that's what I've experienced with both of these so far. And I have swapped SIMs already, and I've only had them like a week already, 9 days. So I've already been going back and forth between them to check that out. And this one is absolutely demolishing the iPhone 16 Pro. So this is the one if you want battery. When it comes to gaming, they both do have the game mode and they're both powerful. However, once again, I feel like there's only going to be one, and that is going to be the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And the reason why that is because this phone has much larger display, but the body allows it to stay cooler to the touch, although both of them can warm up quite easily under a heavier game. The 16 Pro Max has longer battery, more space to hold it, and more space to just enjoy the gaming experience. So I just cannot recommend an iPhone 16 Pro for gaming over a 16 Pro Max. So if you want to do a lot of gaming, it's not that you can't do it. You could still have tons of fun on the gaming experience for the 16 Pro. Don't get it twisted. I'm just saying, if that's your ultimate task that you're trying to do, one of your favorite things to do, the 16 Pro Max would be a wise choice, because you're going to have the ability to game longer because the battery won't drain as fast, more heat dissipation, and a larger screen to enjoy. If you're playing an open world game, for example, you'll be able to see it in a larger format. It's the same thing like a TV. If you're going to play a PS5 or an Xbox, aren't you going to play it on a larger screen? Same thing here. Same thing applies here if you're doing mobile gaming. I know a lot of people argue, who games on their phone? Many people game. Go look at the downloads for these games. There's millions and millions of downloads. And keep in mind, just because you might have that perspective, there are people that are into that. That's their thing. They like to game. So to say that is kind of like not really being open-minded to the fact that a lot of people do play mobile games day to day. And they have fun with it too, because there's a lot of other people playing, and then they could play against other players online around the world. Pretty fun sometimes. Audio performance, like every year, was louder on the Max version. It just was a slightly louder than this smaller 16 Pro. Not too much, only about a decibel or two, but that makes a difference. At the highs, though, at the very highs and loudest volume point, though, both of these did really good with not like making the audio sound tinny or anything like that. And the speaker arrangement on here, because they have a 4-speaker arrangement, they're excellent mics for camera as well, with this new audio mix feature that allows you to kind of take out some background noise. It's a pretty amazing feature for the iPhone. I'm going to showcase that to you here. So you have a video.
16 Pro Max. I'm going to pan around.
You can go right here. Not there. We'll go here to this settings section. There's a little feature called audio mix, and you could change the different audio.
This is a good shot to show you the skyline. I'm going to also zoom in now. That's 2x and that's 5x.
And it will literally change and remove some of the annoying background noises if you are taking videos and people tend to get in your shot, or you get some noise you don't want in the shot. That's an amazing feature if you're going to be doing a lot of video. It really is. It's kind of a separator from other phones out there. It's a really cool take. It's a really good thing for the audio experience this year on both iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. Now, honestly, if I was to pick one of these for the phone, I would pick the iPhone 16 Pro. Making calls on a smaller screen is always going to feel more comfortable. In addition, they both have upgraded Qualcomm modems in here, so they actually have been getting me. I used to actually drop I couldn't get any signal for like mobile in my garage. Now I can get LTE. I don't get 5G when I'm in these areas that are tricky, but I've been getting LTE, so I do think the modems are slightly better. It's still not great. You're still probably going to have issues when you're surrounded by a lot of people using a phone at the same time. There is certain times it's still not perfect, but it's an improvement over the previous 15 Pros. So funnily enough, phone call quality is improvement. Also, you have T9 dialers with the iOS 18 and call recording. So the whole calling experience, even though that's not like the main thing that people do anymore on a phone, it's still something that was improved all across the board here for the 16 Pro series, including with the software and the hardware. At the end of the day, the truth is neither the 16 Pro Max nor do the 16 Pro overly excite me when I compare it and think about them next to the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. But they do excite me when I think back to people who are coming from the 11 Pro Max, the 12 Pro Max. These are such solid upgrades, and they feel like a really big leap forward for you if you have one of those older iPhones. So this is why you can't just look at the year-over-year upgrade. Apple is still providing massive upgrades for people who are coming from older phones. But if you're looking for a more exciting change, I do think you need to wait till next year. That's going to be the year of a more exciting change. But if you just want a new upgrade and you're not waiting that long, and you're trying to decide between these two, at the end of the day, pick the Pro Max if you value battery life, you value a large screen, and you value more space when framing your photos, and you value a little bit higher audio quality, just a little bit. It's not a lot, it's very small, but something. And you just want to watch a lot of media on your phone. Get this phone right here. You want a bigger GPS in your car or whatever. If you don't got CarPlay, that'll be cool. Like over here for the 16 Pro, if you value a not small, feeling kind of large, but still compact and portable, almost maybe a sweet spot screen size, get the 16 Pro. If you're okay with a charge every night and you don't mind not having the biggest battery, you prefer the ergonomics and the comfort, get the 16 Pro. I think once you're using this, you won't even be thinking about a Max. If you have a Max, you might actually be thinking, should I have got the smaller 16 Pro? That's how big this phone is at 6.9. This one, though, you won't be thinking about, should I have got the Max? I don't think you'll be thinking about that at all. Once you get used to this, this feels very sweet spot. It feels like a good size. It doesn't feel too large. And so that's how I would decide. At the end of the day, you're still getting the same cameras. You're still getting the same build. And you're not going to go wrong either way with software support. So that's it. I hope this video really helped you figure out which one is for you. I know this is a tough decision when you're paying this much money, and that's why I wanted to give you this long, in-depth video covering all the points between these two. If you have any more questions, comments, concerns, drop them down below. A lot of people have already bought these. A lot of people are, in fact, going to buy these. They also can help you out a lot as well in the comments section. I'll try to reply to as many comments as possible. But thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here, and I will catch you all in the very next episode. Peace.